Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome back to the Mind of Sai Marie. I am your host, Sai Marie Johnson, as you all know, and today we are talking about taking control of your creative destiny. Joining me this afternoon is the incredible Jennifer Lieberman. Jennifer, thank you for being here today.
What a lovely intro. Thank you, Sai. I'm excited to be here and chat with you.
Awesome. So, Jennifer, you've authored books, produced plays, and acted on global stages. Looking at everything you built, what is the one central mission that ties all these different projects together?
Oh, great question. Well, I guess for my own writing, the need to perform was always the impetus of why I started writing screenplays and plays, or beyond that, even just storytelling in general. I guess I'm really a storyteller at heart.
I can relate to that one a lot. I was doing the same kinds of things ever since childhood. So you're a huge advocate for make your own break philosophy. In an industry that usually tells artists to wait for a phone call, how do you define creative autonomy for someone just starting out?
The worst part about starting off as an actor was the waiting. It gets so frustrating when you choose a career where you feel like you're completely helpless and at the whim of other people's decisions. So, about a few years into beginning my acting journey, I had an opportunity to produce. And of course, I said no because I had no interest in producing. I just wanted to be on stage and perform. But I was convinced to produce a project for a theater company I was in New York. And it was a disaster. I'm not going to lie. It was a total disaster because I didn't know what I was doing. But over the years, I got better at it. I stuck with it. I realized I enjoyed it. And now it has given me the power to stay in the game, even when somebody else isn't choosing me.
I love that. That's awesome. So, your book, Independent Theater Production for the 21st Century, feels like a survival guide. Why was it important for you to give people a literal seven-step manual rather than just general advice?
That's a great question. So I made my own break, as I say, because that's the name of my company. I made my own break with my own one woman show that I wrote and produced and played 10 characters in. And it didn't necessarily lead to where I wanted it to lead at the time. It didn't get me an agent or manager, which is why I did it when I first moved to LA. But fast forward several years later, it became a number one best-selling novel and won 5 literary awards. And it changed my life. Taking the reins of my career has gotten me to international film festivals like the Cannes Film Festival. It's gotten me on the number one bestseller list. It's taken me down a road that I never would have embarked on if people were choosing me for roles at the rate I wanted them to, number one. And number two, if I was just letting somebody else choose the path and direction of my career. So after I did the show, after it was a success, I realized I can help my friends. I could help other frustrated, struggling creatives take the reins themselves. So I developed these workshops, and I developed them several years ago. And most recently, I was hired to teach one of the workshops at Toronto Metropolitan University. And while I was teaching that course, I realized that I could turn this into a book and it can be accessible to more people. Not everyone can afford a consultation with me, and not everyone can afford the full 8-hour course. I taught it one semester at a university, so it was a 6-week class. But even so, artists who are starting out, they want to save that money and put it into their production or put it into their show. They don't necessarily want to spend it on the consultation. So this just made the information more accessible.
I can relate to that one too. So, we often hear that art and business are a toxic mix, but your work bridges that gap. How does learning the production side actually protect the artist's vision rather than hindering it?
That's such a great question because it's true. A lot of artists have this idea that business and thinking about bottom line is going to stifle creativity. It doesn't. They really do go hand in hand. Because without a budget, there is no project. And without an audience, there's no way to raise money for your budget. So they all loop into each other. And I think when artists understand decisions that are made by the people who hire us, when we understand the bottom line that they're looking at and the amount of time, effort, energy, and money it takes to put a production together, then we have a whole new respect for what it takes to make a production happen. So one of the things that I look at in the book is reverse engineering your process and basically seeing what is the bottom line potential revenue that you can make. What is the top dollar that you can make? And then I suggest for people to cut it in half, because you're never going to sell out every single ticket to every single show. That is the number. That is the realistic number with the amount of shows, amount of seats, and amount of weeks your production's going to be. So you need to make it feasible and realistic to fit within those financial constraints.
I agree with that too. So you've navigated some of the toughest rooms in the industry. What things get heavy or you hit a wall? What is the anchor that keeps you focused on the goal?
Oh my goodness. I have wanted to give up so many times. And each time it's been different things that kind of brought me back down to my passion, brought me back down to earth in a sense, because my passion and my drive to create is really what grounds me. But sometimes it's friends just asking about, hey, what's going on with this project? You haven't talked about it in a while. For example, the book. The book was many years of getting really passionate, really excited about putting my novel into the world, and then getting so much rejection that I just am like, okay, I'm not wasting my time with this anymore. So it was having a community of supportive friends and supportive collaborators who encouraged me to keep going. That's number one. And then number two, I did a show in New York, and it was some of the best work I had ever done. And nobody really showed up. I wasn't the producer on the project. I was hired to be an actor. And I was so disappointed as the outcome. In a way, the production broke me because I put so much into it and I really didn't get much out of it. And I kind of fell into a depression for a few weeks. And I was talking to a colleague in LA on the phone, because I was living in LA but traveled back to New York to do the show. And I said, my dream is to be Meryl Streep, and it's just not happening. And he said to me, well, clearly you are not Meryl Streep, in a really condescending tone. And I hung up on him, and I just kind of got this fire reignited, like, you have no idea what I'm capable of. You have no idea what I'm worth. You have no idea what's inside of me. I'm going to, I'm going to get back on the horse, and I'm going to be a freaking success.
I love that. So let's talk technical. What is the number one hurdle that you see aspiring producers trip over when they try to move a script into an actual venue?
One of the biggest things that I see as an oversight is the butts in seats factor. And butts in seats is marketing and publicity in order to get your audience there. It takes so much to get a show going. It takes so much to get a show off the ground, between the fundraising, the casting, the rehearsals, like gathering all of the raw materials needed, between the props, the costumes, the setting, the music, the choreography. There's just so many moving pieces that I feel like a lot of the time, the marketing and publicity aspect is kind of an afterthought. And I made this mistake a few times, my first few times producing, when I was green and I wasn't really aware of how important it was. A lot of artists kind of have this pie in the sky attitude. If you build it, they will come. And it's like, no. If you have a great marketing campaign and some great publicity and some cool videos online and reach out to the right influencers, then they will come. But it's something that is kind of an afterthought a lot of the time. And from what I've learned is that you need to have at least a third of your budget. So whatever it's going to cost you to do the show, just to get the show going as a production, you need 1/3 of that amount just to promote and just for publicity.
That is some great insight. Thank you for sharing. So, is there any final thoughts that you would like to share with us about production and making your own moves in order to make your own break?
You need to be super passionate. And one of the things I talk about being a creative, it doesn't matter what type of creative you are, whether you're a visual artist or a writer or a performer or a comedian. This is an industry, the arts in general are a thankless industry where you rarely get paid. When you do get paid, it's not generally enough, unless you're in the 1%. But beyond the payment, you're in a relationship with somebody who's not going to love you back. So you have to love it enough for both of you. You have to love just the doing of it. Just getting to do it has to be enough, because the money, the accolades, the critical acclaim, the reviews, the audience showing up, none of those are a guarantee. So you're in a relationship with somebody who's not going to love you back most of the time. So you have to love it enough for both of you.
I completely agree with that. When looking toward the future, what do you want your lasting legacy to be for the next generation of independent creators who find your book, say, 50 years from now?
Wow. Wow. I'm just like thinking about next week, 50 years. I hope artists feel empowered to keep creating. And in the digital era, which I think it's just going to become more digital and more screens and more saturated, I really hope that theater stays alive and live performance stays alive, because we're able to have discussions and explorations on a live stage. Small independent theater is usually small productions. They're not big musicals that millions of dollars have been pumped into. But we're able to have really important conversations, explore experimental work. And I hope that kind of art is still happening in 50 years from now. And it's not just about wanting to go viral and look at me, and wanting to, get sponsors so you can monetize your account.
Right. That is important insight to keep, and I completely agree with that. I think that you're headed to that stage, and people will definitely looking back at this and going, wow, this is some great advice. It's been an absolute masterclass having you on the show today. Before we go, for that person sitting on a dream right now but paralyzed by fear, what is the one step that you would suggest that they take today?
Just do it. Whatever it is, just do it. And if you don't feel confident in the doing it, go out and feed your creative soul, feed your energy, stay inspired. Part of being an artist, especially during that downtime when you're in between gigs or in between ideas, in between projects, that's when it can get really dark for an artist, when we don't see that light at the end of the tunnel of, oh, I have this project coming up, or I have this thing that I'm working on, this idea that I'm working out. We need to stay inspired. So go see theater, go to museums, go to art shows, go see live music, and support local. That's the other thing. Go see your local bands. Go see some small local theater. It doesn't have to be a big, huge production. And just keep doing things that are going to inspire you and feed your soul and kind of give you that fire to create. I don't know about you, Sai, but when I see a really good piece of art, be it film, theater, painting, music, it just makes me want to go out and make more.
Right, right.
You
I
know,
agree.
yeah, like for example, I saw the new Michael Jackson movie on the weekend. And he was just such an amazing artist, an amazing creator, amazing musician. And even from the clothing that he chose to wear, like everything, every ounce of his life, like just oozed with creativity. And just watching that movie, I'm just like, man, I need to up my game. Like I need to get better. I need to study more. I need to do more. I need to, and that's the thing. Just keep yourself inspired, and that current of creativity is going to continue to run through you.
Perfectly articulated. Thank you so much for that. Jennifer Lieberman, thank you for sharing your grit and grace with me today. And to the listeners, check out the show notes and pick up her book, because this is creative masterclass information that everybody could use. And I don't care where you are on your creative journey, whether you're just starting or you're deep into it, we all need to be reminded how to refill our creative pots. And I think this is the key to doing that. So check the show notes and stop waiting, start creating. And remember, the mind is the most important story that we'll ever tell. See you next time on the Mind of Sai Marie.